Hello, Nigeria. If you're just joining us, this is the Big Every morning, millions of Nigerians leave their homes hoping for one simple thing: to return safely across highways, villages, cities, and border communities. Stories of kidnappings, bandit attacks, terrorism, and violent crime continue to dominate conversations. But alongside those troubling headlines are reports of military offensives, rescued victims, criminal hideouts dismantled, and security forces reclaiming territories once under threat. So the nation is left asking, are we making progress, or are we simply learning to live with insecurity? Is Nigeria gradually defeating the forces that threaten its peace, or is the battle slipping further out of reach? Today, we examine the facts, the perceptions, the successes, the failures, and the reality behind the headlines. My name is Mark Otabo, and this is the Big Issue. Thank you very much. Welcome back, Nigeria, your home of fearless conversations, the Big Issue. Thank you very much. Security remains one of the most important issues facing our nation, but opinions differ sharply on whether Nigeria is gaining ground or losing control in the fight against insecurity. Today, two respected voices join us. First, Sherifat Umar. She's a proud Muslima, multi-talented creative, and award-winning public speaking coach and social media manager. She believes Nigeria is fast losing the war against insecurity. She argues that despite official assurances, many Nigerians still do not feel safe. Please welcome Sherifat Umar to the podium. Thank you very much. On the other side, Oluodo Ayomide Israel is a student leader, brand strategist, entrepreneur, and public speaker, passionate about communications, business, youth advocacy, and development. He believes Nigeria is winning the war against insecurity despite ongoing challenges. He argues that measurable gains by security agencies show significant progress is being made. Please welcome Ayomide to the podium. Welcome. When we return, the battle of ideas begin. This is still the Big Issue. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the Big Issue. Right now, the conversation begins. Sherifat Umar, you believe Nigeria is fast losing the war against insecurity. How do you start?
Thank you very much for that. Let me start with something every Nigerian present here today can relate to. Imagine a mother who cannot fully relax until her child sends a message saying, "I have arrived safely," or a student who travels with full prayer points, or even a trader who does not only calculate risk or the amount of transport fare, but also the risk of the journey before actually setting out. So I am left with this question: what exactly are we calling security? Because security, in simple terms, simply means the ability of individuals to live their daily lives without fear, harms, or actually seeing danger in certain instances. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, if we want to look at it holistically, we should try to examine the reality of Nigeria. Because how would I be living in fear and you expect me to say that I am in a secure place? So this is what we need to examine. And I strongly believe that if we examine the reality happening here in Nigeria today, we strongly believe that Nigeria is not yet winning the battle against insecurity.
Come on. That was a brilliant intro, by the way, Ayomide. I know you've got your own counter How do you begin your conversation right here?
Okay, so I think we need to look at this a bit more critically, right? Because we are talking about if Nigeria is winning the war against insecurity. And for us to even start anything at all, I think we need to define what winning actually means. If we are looking at winning as, no attacks happening, we would be on a losing end. That means no country literally on earth would be winning. Not America after 9/11, not France after Charlie Hebdo. No country would be winning, right? But in our particular context as Nigerians, we need to redefine what winning means. And in this case, we have to define it as the fact that strategies, the work that the government is putting in, even though it's not properly communicated, that the work that the government is putting in, the things that the government is doing generally are improving things, right? And beyond reasonable doubt, we've been able to see that certain efforts that the government is taking is actually moving us in the right direction. And I hope to, shed light to that today. Thank you.
Come on. All right, Sherifat, now you broke it down when you started. You were able to give us a perfect example of what safety simply means. From that child who comes home, gives the mother some kind of reprieve. I'm home now, everywhere is safe and everywhere, is looking really good. Now, how do you delve in proper to give us an understanding of why you think Nigeria is not winning this war against insecurity?
Thank you very much for that question. One question, what do we define security? Are we talking about the headlines or the reports that we get to see? Because recently, even in Oyo State, we had issues of students being abducted alongside teachers. Are we going to say that because statistically it is saying that about a particular statistic is saying that we have amounts of people who have been secured and all of that, but if we look at it individually, what the reality is actually saying, I beg to believe that it is not what the reality is saying. Because if we look at a particular parent whose child has been kidnapped, the reality is not what the military statistics is actually saying. The reality is actually if my child is home. So you cannot come to tell an average Nigerian that we are actually winning against security as a result of the statistics, and my child has been abducted, is not yet home. So I beg to believe that the reality is contradicting what the statistics is saying.
Ayomide, I do not envy where you stand at the moment, but I know you have no choice but to pull off whatever you need to pull off to make this conversation really interesting. She just gave a perfect example of Oyo State, and she was able to pinpoint where the abduction happened: a school, students, and teachers. That's quite gruesome, whether you like it or not. How do you respond to that quick, allegation she just pulled off?
I like that it's a recent development that she raised, but one important framing I'd like to introduce is that this is a battle, and that implies that it is ongoing, which means there are going to be casualties on both sides, uncertainties, different things happening on both sides. But we have to understand that in the general purview of things are moving forward, right? So, for example, we are not comparing Nigeria as a peaceful country like Norway. We're comparing Nigeria right now to Nigeria as at 2015 in terms of our capacity, in terms of the work that government is putting in, innovation, in making sure that we are positioned properly. Sometimes victory doesn't necessarily look like victory at the beginning, but looking at the efforts being put in place, looking at the strategies being put in place, we can see that if we give it, a bit of time, or with more execution, with more strategies, things will move forward in the right direction. But positionally, we are not the same place we were the last time. For example, if we're looking at most of the previous decade, Nigeria's security responses were reactive. A lot of things will happen, and then the military will just get there. It wasn't really operational. It wasn't really active. It wasn't really in a case where we were fighting actively. But recently, according to Truth Nigeria, published on the 31st of March 2025, according to the reporting on Operation Fansan Yama, Nigerians has actually recently acquired some Air Force innovation, which allows them to be able to perform aerial checks and to ensure that they are actively taking preemptive strikes. This was not present before, right? So, and we are seeing it in the way that bandits are now moving less freely. Some security analysts have reported that bandits are moving less freely than they used to, because they know that there's aerial view now. They can be seen, they can be watched. So sometimes the fact that they are being pressured into doing all these things they are doing is just a signal to the fact that Nigeria is actually proactive in the way we are addressing the situation, and we should not just, sensationalize the issue at hand. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sharifat, you were very quick to point out the abduction in Oyo State, which is quite a very sad situation. But who would you be blaming for that abduction that happened in Oyo State if you were to make a case for the students and the teachers currently?
Why did we get to elect our leaders? Because we believe in them. We believe there are those certain persons who are going to be for us when certain things arise. For example, security. And for a country to be well secured, it means that there have been certain people who have been at the ends of affairs, supporting and protecting we Nigerians. I cannot say, for example, I'm a student, I cannot say because I am trying so hard to pass a particular exam and I've not been attending lectures in which the lecturer has been teaching, then it's safe to say that I'm more likely like a driver driving with no specific direction. This is to say that if there have been necessary measures being put in place, and I'm not disputing the fact that there have been measures put in place, the military forces and all of that, but victories does not automatically mean that the wars have actually been won. Let me break it down for you. If a student who writes about 10 tests and passes about 3, we're actually going to applaud such a student for doing so well in 3 courses, but we are not going to conclude that such a student is the overall best student in that class. Yes or yes? Because if we look at it holistically, the best thing we are supposed to be asking is, what is the overall result that is report card saying? And that is how I like to see insecurity in Nigeria. If those are the aims of our fears are taking the necessary measures, I'm not disputing the fact that there have been measures put in place, but these measures are not synonymous to what the reality is saying. So if they can take proper measures, if they can actually do the necessary things, because let's say, for example, a kidnapper is 10 steps ahead, I am expecting the authorities to be 10,000 times ahead of the kidnappers.
Ayomide, she was able to break it down. Now, the narrative out there is the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The buck stops on his table. Do you also share the same narrative? And if you're going to argue, what exactly would you be saying?
I think we need to understand that government is a strata, right? And everything starts at the head and flows down. So whatever efforts are being taken at the top needs to be somewhat propagated by the structures under it. And in this case, there are certain initiatives that the federal government has taken that hasn't really been executed properly at state level. You need to tell me why in Lagos State, when Raji Babatunde Fashola was the governor, there was a sort of stringent approach to security. There was a presence that was felt. People could not commit crimes anyhow, and that was at state level. We can attribute it to of course, maybe federal level, but there was a level of execution state level, on the state level. When we go to Akeredolu in Ondo State, and it was able to, pioneer Amotekun to increase the security, to stop, the insecurity or to reduce the insecurity in the state. We are looking at the fact that, everything doesn't start from the top and end at the top. There needs to be some execution, substrata-wise. So when we look at the budget, the allocation, the resources that have been allocated to these state bodies, to police force, what have they been using it to do? So I don't think it would be fair to place the blame and focus it at the center, because everything might start at the center, but it doesn't necessarily propagate, to the functional level at the center. So we need to start reframing how we think about the strata. Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Okay, so if you're trying to say that there have been necessary measures being put in place, let's take, for example, the security sector. Statistics shows that the highest sector receiving funds from the federal government is the security sector. And if measures have been put in place, why are we still having reoccurring issues of gunmen, kidnappings? Because the truth is, statistically, if we are going to say Nigeria is not safe, and everybody can testify to it, why do I have to confidently feel, why do I have to always get scared? Because coming here today, I had to bust a board, and in my head, I was praying, I hope these people are actually not kidnappers. That was my fear. So if there have been measures being put in place, and if there are actually been security sectors being allocated to this sector, why are we still having issues of kidnapping and all of that?
Okay.
Awesome. Rampant, to be precise.
Okay. I think the issue of security is two-sided. There is actually being secure, and there's the feeling of being secure. And sometimes efforts placed on one end of the game doesn't necessarily reflect on the other end. So there might be things that the government is doing, strategies that are being employed, but people are not necessarily feeling it. But security is a very sensitive issue. You don't expect the government to be actively communicating certain, security directives. It would, kill the point of what security is supposed to mean, right? But it is the responsibility of the government, however, to make sure that, the narrative doesn't go out of bounds, even though they can't do, the full expose of what's happening. And this is why I think we need to take a little bit of responsibility as citizens. Recently in Lagos State, there has been a hike of fake and, staged kidnappings. And once those things happen, it goes online, everybody's sensationalized, it's incendiary, everybody's talking about how unsafe everything is. And recently, even during the case of the children that were abducted recently, my condolences goes out. Martins Otse, that's very dark man, just came online and started touting claims that, the abductors were, asking for a reenaction of the Sharia law or something along those lines. And it took a video coming out from the kidnappers then from the principal, I believe, to come and dispel those claims and say, actually, they are not asking for this and you people should stop playing politics with our lives. Right? To an extent, public narrative is not entirely shaped by the government alone. We ourselves have to take some responsibility for how we perceive and, react to information. Because at the end of the day, it goes way when it comes to how we feel secure, it goes way beyond what the government is doing or what the government is not doing. We ourselves, we have some responsibility. No country in the world has ever, made bounds and leaps in security without doing some active, community-based policing. When 9/11 happened and FBI did some outreach to the Muslim communities, that is essentially making it so that security is not a case of one person is doing everything. There has to be some collaboration. There has to be some responsibility on both sides. However, I believe that with time we can get to a place where we actually feel secure.
Thank you very much. Come on, put your hands together. Two different perspectives, two different, very fantastic conclusions. When we return, the gloves come off. This is still the big issue. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Now, of course, let's go straight to the heart of the matter. Right now, Sherifat, as a matter of fact, this is the crossfire. Exactly, you've made your points clear and you have said that citizens cannot travel on certain roads. It's looking unsafe. When you were coming, you had this crazy perception in your heart if everywhere is truly safe. How do you actually channel this energy with this moment that you're about to pick it up? Because right now, it's going to be you and him going head to head at the moment. How do you begin this very feisty conversation?
Firstly, while he was talking, something was coming to my head.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have measures being put in place, we have issues of criminal leaders being exempted and executed. But I still get to ask myself, all these victories, have they actually been translated into safety for average Nigerians? That's the first thing I need to get clarity on.
Okay. Okay. So I understand that the numbers are climbing, and I'm in no way denying the numbers or trying to reduce the effect of the lives that are at risk or the lives that have been lost already. But I want to contextualize it with military perspective. There's something called the surge effect, where once strategies are being employed, where when the military is in a proactive state, they're actively pursuing, actively engaging these criminals, there's a pressure that comes around. And in that pressure, casualties start on both sides. For example, the fact that we now have some Air Force innovation means that some criminals are feeling the pressure already, right? As of I think between last year and this year, there have been some reforms around ransom, right, that made it so that 91% of ransoms don't get paid at all. And these are enterprises that need money to move. These are things that require money to move. So while we are, looking at the numbers, we're looking at the fact that things are happening, we have to understand that it's happening on both sides. The reason why things are moving up right now, and it is not indefinitely, I feel like it's going to stop at some point or reduce, is because we are not actively engaging them. We are no longer reacting. We're actively pursuing them, and it shows in how...
We're actually reacting.
Yeah.
We're actually reacting.
We are not reacting.
We are reacting instead of actually preventing. Because the truth is, if we are not reacting, then we don't need to wait before we hear situation of gunmen attacking a particular place, before we take necessary measures. Measures need to have been put in place before all of this. So I need to believe that we are actually reacting and not preventing. Recently,
we took out a major leader, a major ISIS leader, right? We collaborated with the US to take him out. I want to state something. There was when France was dealing with Charlie Hebdo, right, on their mainland, and there were local PR crises. Like there were instances where people in France were going to join ISIS, and it felt like France could not just have a hold of the situation. Like it felt like a PR battle. But in the grander stage, they were actually taking the fight to the people abroad, coordinating strikes with other countries to make sure that ISIS at their base were destabilized. It might have seemed like in the local standpoint, in the local framework, that they weren't doing anything, that they were losing the battle. But on the grander stage, they were actually taking steps.
For example, one of those steps is how I have an example for you. For example, if a doctor is actually trying to treat a sick patient, and for example, if the surgery is being successful and you get to see the patient still not being able to work, still not being able to work, of course the surgery is a success. But if we are to look at the patient is not responding to treatment and all of that, are we going to term that as victory? That is the same thing here in Nigeria. There have actually been issues, and then we are reacting to it, but that victory does not automatically translate into the wars being actually won. So I actually need clarity on this
debate. One of the things I mentioned is that winning is not won. This is an ongoing battle. If a patient is battling with cancer, you don't get healed overnight. Just taking all of these steps, these security innovations, require a lot of time.
Okay, so you're saying that parents who are currently in Oyo State needs to just sit back and be waiting that the government are still working on it. We are talking about lives here. We are not talking about you waiting for the necessary measures to be taken. We need active responsibility. Action. So it's not something that we need to just wait and say we need to see these people. We need to wait for them to take the necessary steps before we actually solve a particular problem.
Well, in that case, I think just to go back to what I said about France, at the end of the day, we have to understand the scale at which these things are happening. The scale at which things are happening dictates that there needs to be a certain level of discretion that is taken in terms of activities that are being taken. So I think if we start to look at things from that standpoint, understanding that before anything starts from the top and gets to the bottom, it takes time, and to understand that even though things are happening, numbers are rising, we have to understand that strategies are being employed, and then things are going ahead.
Let me hit you a bit. She just said something that I took note of. And the problem here is, whether you like it or not, these guys attack, cause mayhem, disappear. The military come, do their thing, and go, and these guys re-strategize and they come back. What exactly is the reason that makes these guys bold enough to go and re-strategize and come back if they have truly been hit? Because if they have truly been hit, they shouldn't have the confidence to actually come back with gusto, to come and commit a double-edged crime again. So what exactly is the strategy do you think is lacking in the area where you think you are winning the war, that is lacking, that gives these guys the audacity to come back and attack again? Okay, so I'd like to lend a bit of grace, not necessarily grace in terms of disparaging what has been happening so far, the reality of most Nigerians. Right. But like I mentioned earlier, the surge effect. Sometimes when there is pressure, there are casualties on both ends. And sometimes that pressure manifests as, those groups re-strategizing, coming back stronger because they understand that the spotlight is on them. Right. Another thing is because we need to understand that this is not a one-phase problem. Right. These are multi-level problems happening in different states, happening under different strategies. Nobody can prove that all of these people are, converging at the top and making. So you're trying to say that because let's say the kidnappers are becoming more sophisticated, we need to shift responsibility.
We are not shifting
because
responsibility.
Let's take a practical example.
This is
a practical example in a school. Because students are taking necessary measures, they are being sophisticated, proactive in cheating in an examination hall. Are we then going to say that invigilators are not doing anything or they are not taking responsibility? Of course, we are not going to say that. It means that the authoritative, they have to do necessary things. And then if the students are going particular way, they have to be 10 times ahead of them. So it is safe to say that sophistication alone is not the explanation.
Okay.
If these people are sophisticated enough and then the government know that they are sophisticated enough, this is where responsibility is going to be very, very high, because security is not something people constantly confirm. It is what people naturally believe and see in their daily life.
All right, thank you very much. Hold on. Thank you. Sharifat, while he was talking, I could pick it. He said during Governor Raji Fashola's time, Lagos State was relatively peaceful. Why? Because at state level, he was able to conduct a fantastic security architecture that gave his state reprieve. And I recall vividly people at the time who were running the Uber services would go to Festac at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and the whole people who go to clubs had peace traveling around the state. Now, the president has increased allocations for governors. He didn't stop there. Security vote has not stopped for these governors as well. Now, the late Akeredolu was able to hold a security architecture in Ondo State, define every order to make sure that that security apparatus stands to protect his people, because that's the vow every governor gives when they are campaigning for election. So are we going to really sit here and totally blame the center for some of the inadequacies of our governors? It's not as if governors are not giving money. They are paid. So are we going to spoon feed our governors when it has to do with protecting people in your locality? What's happening to the local vigilantes and all of that that should actually guard some of this, your local government, that should actually make some of this security possible?
If you have malaria and then you use a painkiller for your headache, have you carefully solved that problem? Are you going to be safe? No, it means you've just been able to solve that problem at that time, but the full malaria, you've actually not tackled it. It's the same thing as regards having issues at respective places. Let's say, for example, there is an issue here in Lagos State, issue of kidnapping, and then the governors have actually done necessary things to make sure that we are secure. And then the next moment you are hearing another issue in other states. Are we carefully going to say that measures have been put in place? No, it means that they have to be a collective responsibilities. The problem now here is people believe that if there is a particular problem and then we've tackled that particular problem, there is a victory. Of course not. The victory will amount if that problem is translating to safety moving forward. It means that if anything is happening, it means that there are necessary measures that have already been put in place, and not that we are waiting for a particular problem to happen before we get a particular solution.
We continue being reactive. In the instance that one thing happens here, we quickly solve it.
Of course, you don't have to be reactive. That's what I'm trying to explain. That the approach being used here is that they are reactive. They are actually reacting instead of actually preventing a particular problem. Because you cannot wait till you are very, very sick before you start taking drugs. When you get to see the sign, you take necessary action instantly, not waiting till you have
show up.
Of course, they don't show up. That is when you have to be very, very vigilant. The truth is, here in Nigeria, let's say, for example, in a particular household, you get to see a kidnapper or let's say a thief get into your house. Every single day, the thief come, destroy everything, and then you go. And then the thief comes again, same thing over and over again. But if you have actually done the necessary things, you have a very strong padlock, you have lights, you have vigilantes all around, it means that even if it comes, it means there are circumstances that you can actually not neglect that would happen. So it means you've done the necessary steps, you've taken the necessary actions. Right. But waiting till the problem comes, I think that's actually a very bad thing.
Okay. And I think it's a reductionist take. I feel like you're trying to simplify the idea of what security means on a national scale. Like, Nigeria's insecurity crisis is not one crisis. It's operating simultaneously in different zones. But I think we need to understand what progress means. Progress doesn't necessarily mean we are not handling everything at the same time. Sometimes progress is, where are we now? Where have we been? Right. We are not where we are, where Boko Haram used to hold territory as big as Belgium back then. Right? We are not where we are, where, people bandits were moving
okay, we are not where we are.
You need to understand.
Years ago, Boko Haram has been something that is not very, very evident, and people can still go out confidently. But now, I beg to say that average Nigerians present here today cannot confidently say that they are going outside Lagos State with full chest. Then you can still rough it and go, because these kidnappers, these gunmen have not become sophisticated. They are moving with technology. They are moving adversely. I was having a conversation with one of my neighbors about 2 days ago, and the person was trying to say that if we are being practical enough, I think the issue of insecurity would have been tackled. As she was talking about the concept of using our social media. These kidnappers, they can go as far as going live. They can go as far as recording while they are butchering human beings. That is how sophisticated they've gone. And back then, during the issue of Boko Haram, we don't get to see issues like this. We don't get to see kidnappers taking their phone and going live. So you like to believe that we are taking necessary steps and then we are moving forward. You mean to say we are moving forward by allowing this unknown government getting more sophisticated?
Come on.
It's not about, I don't think it's about allowance. I think it's about allowance, right?
Well, you have actually stated your point, but currently right now, as I understand, forest guards have been deployed, over 1,000 of them, to guard our forests. And of course, I understand also that the state police also is a conversation that is underway at the moment to checkmate this problem. And why state police? Because they want indigents to be recruited into that force that understand the locality and the terrain of these environments. With these measures ongoing, are you saying the government is not doing anything to actually improve? Because your stand is practically saying the government is not necessarily doing anything that is visible. But he just said something. Areas of security or issues of security cannot be so pronounced because you actually, you interrupt the flow, you compromise operations, and you give these bandits and these terrorists, you give them lead. And this is what the government is not trying to do. Nigerians want government to come and announce to them every single day how they are making progress. But in security matters, it doesn't work that way. How do you respond to that?
I acknowledge the fact that victories have actually been gotten. I acknowledge the fact that securities have been put in place. I am not disputing that fact. But the very real question we need to ask is, what do we define measure as? Are we actually measuring security as the military statistics? Because for an average woman whose child has been kidnapped in Oyo State, the real debate is not whether the military statistically have been doing the right thing. It is whether my child is home.
All right.
I think we've reached a point where we can agree that the government is doing things. However, it may not necessarily translate to the individual lived experiences of Nigerians. But this is where I think there needs to be a sort of a shift in the way we are approaching the conversation by shifting the burden, not shifting it entirely, but actually extending some responsibility to the community as well. For example, I think the IG recommended 190,000 recruits, right, for the police force. We were only able to get 50. Do we want to force people out of their houses to, participate in in their own security? The same people that are being affected, we're not really seeing the same pushback from them themselves in trying to contain the security issues. I think that's very important, because like I said, countries that have done it before, they didn't do it alone. Community policing is something communities going, taking proactive steps to collaborate with the government. Oh, something is wrong here. I don't think this is right. I think these people are intruding. There's something suspicious going on here. For example, I think this a long time ago, I don't know if people know Soka, right? It was the Okada riders that went there, right? And then they just disheveled the whole thing without the help of the police, right? They were not, necessarily trained operatives, but they took responsibility for their own security. And I'm not saying that this is to take the burden entirely of the government. The government still has to do what they have to do. But it would be unfair, rather, right? Or totally insensitive to, put all the burden on them and to, translate the strategies of the government at a large scale. To the experiences of Nigerians. Nigerians also taking responsibility.
All right. Security is a collective responsibility. Important questions, difficult answers, and a debate that affects every Nigerian. When we return, the people weigh in. If you're just joining us, this is still the big... Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the Big Issue. Right about now, we are going to be taking questions from the audience and contributions as well. So it's a very sensitive topic, whether you like it or not. It has so many layers back and forth. And we've been able to enjoy some of the points raised by these two individuals here. Whether you like it or not, they might not have exhausted everything that you felt they should have exhausted, but to a great extent, they've been able to open our eyes to certain realities and the pushbacks coming from both of them. So we're going to be taking contributions first. And I have my brother right here. Just tell us your name and your contribution quickly.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Champion Mike.
Right.
Okay, my contribution will go this way. I feel that the narrative sometimes is being misconstrued. Let me start up on this note. May 17th to 19th, just last month, I'm aware that 175 terrorists were neutralized by the Nigerian army. All right, members of the ISIS and the ISWAP fighters. Okay, he also mentioned the other time about a certain ISWAP global leader. In fact, especially the second in command, Abu Muniki by name, was neutralized and killed in a major fight that gave them a setback, at global terrorist level. All right, beyond Abu Muniki's death, we still have Abdul Mangali, another strategic ISWAP fighter that was killed by military forces that are not being celebrated. We see another Abdul Wahab. This man was a propaganda commander for ISWAP terrorist group, also killed. Or just recently, due to an internal fracture and due to military airstrikes, 7,000 commandant and non-commandant fighters from the terrorist group have surrendered to the Nigerian military forces. We are not hearing this thing because it's not being properly communicated. And there's really a bias in the system saying that the military guys are not doing anything. And I think that is very, very unfair. Nigeria is winning the war against terrorism. We are looking at efforts being put in place. The president recently announced 1,000 recruitment of security guards. There's structure to put in place state police. So, credible leadership comes from responsible citizenry. The citizens need to take responsibility to join the military forces to ensure that terrorism is a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, like you said, it's not been reported and it's not been celebrated because politicians have devised a way to use it to score cheap points for them to actually come and rule over us. That's the script that keeps playing over and over again. But fantastic for that beautiful revelation. Please put your hands together for me once again. Thank you. All right, let's have a contribution quickly. Your name?
Good afternoon. I'm Samson Edith.
All right.
In a situation, or let me say, a student who burns midnight candles like she's reading. Her mother is saying her reading just to pass an exam. And at the end of the day, she goes for that exam. And when the result is out, she fails the exam. Are we going to say that student did not put effort? No. But some people would not believe that she actually made efforts in passing that exam. I'm going to support her in what she said.
Right.
You talked about victory not being said at once. It is a progress. Yes, I agree with you that it is a progress. But in a situation where you're coming out to say we are winning in insecurity and we have children, not adults. Now let's even remove the teachers out of it. We have children in the bush sleeping on the floor. Now, we are inside the studio and we are still complaining of cold. And we have children out there that are lying on the floor. And we are talking about the whole thing, the whole security being in progress. The governments are not coming out to tell the Nigerians their plans. In the case of Adelabu, the sister and the children were kidnapped on the 3rd. And they were released on the 6th. These people have been in that bush for more than 2 weeks. You would not say that the government does not know how to go about the rescue of those people. We're talking about security. We're talking about the lives of children. And you made mention of we as Nigerians also taking responsibility in our own security or in our own safety. Are you telling me now that if I should come out and say, okay, oh, I want to come and secure my area, or I want to come and stand and bring out security, do you think anybody is going to come out to back me? No. Why? She made mention of something of this kidnap of a thing not being rampant, which is actually true. It was not this bad. It was lesser than this. We still had the mind to travel out. I'm an event manager. I might go for a job and I might be coming back to my house around past 12, and I will still have peace of mind to come into my area at that time. Why? Because I know I have securities. I have people securing that area. But in this case, I cannot go out and I would not be panicking by 10 o'clock. Why? Because the whole thing now is, I'm sorry, but the whole thing is looking very crazy.
Okay.
So I'm saying that you're talking about progress and governments are trying to see, brother, we need to focus on things that are more important. There is a saying, Nigeria is not for the masses, Nigeria is not for the poor. I totally agree with it. Because if the government are actually putting this or your issue in place, I'm very sure they would have done something about it.
Okay, so how do you respond to that? Yeah, it's a contribution / a question, because she's trying to tell you that if the Adelabos family could get their people released in days, how come these captives are still there for as long as they are?
Okay, so she made a lot of valid points, and I'm trying to hold all of them in my head at the same time while I try to respond. But I think the first thing she mentioned was concerning...
Just be brief. You don't really need to break everything down.
Okay, the issue of the children being abducted and all of that. I would like us to avoid being sensational, right? Of course, something like this requires national outrage. But because of that, we won't start to, put down the effort that has been taken, or the fact that actually a lot of us, or a lot of the, majority of people in the country are actually secure. How many of you here know someone personally that was kidnapped recently? How many of you here know someone that was personally, someone personally that was kidnapped recently?
I do.
Okay, just one person, right? I'm not trying to dismiss the entirety of that experience, but just one person. It will not be fair to, to use just one metric, however important and however, sensitive it is, to now judge the fact that, oh, that means all of us are not secure, right? So I think that's one case. For example, and we can't really even say, right? And I think this is the issue with sensitive issues or sensitive or sensational issues. We don't know the statistics or the logistics of what facilitated Adelabu's sister's release apart from the children. These are children. They are not the same demographic. We don't even know that they are the same cases. We don't even know that they are the same two, they are the same two, we don't even know that they are similar cases, or if the same people that arrested these people, that took these people, or if these people are experts, or these people are dumb. Right? So we need to understand the implications
because of time. Yeah. Who do we have next? Okay, let me hear you quickly.
Good day, everyone. My name is Thomas Oluwafunmilayo. So like what he said. He said they are taking measures. It's just that we can't see it yet.
Okay.
And also, in taking measures, there are also people that are sabotaging it in the government, because how can kidnappers have access to social media, be able to butcher people, and they are still posting it online? Or how can they have sophisticated weapons? It shows that there are people in the government that are also like the brain behind all these attacks and terrorism that is going on in the country.
Okay.
And yes, she's right in what she said. We cannot actually sit down on our arms and expect that the government don't do what they are supposed to do. Yes, she's right.
Okay.
In that way, that children are in the bush and nobody is not even saying anything. Even the governor on his own said until he's elected as president before he can take action. When will that be? That is next year. So those children have to stay there till the following year in order for them to gain freedom.
All right, please put your hands together for her. All right. Let me quickly make a quick statement here. The governor said he cannot do anything about insecurity in Nigeria unless he's elected president. That is not on the case of the Oyo abducted kids. And talking about the issue of, what was that issue you raised again concerning the bandits who come online to display? Several of them have been arrested now, those of them who have been displaying on TikTok. We heard cases of them being apprehended, meaning that the security forces are clamping down on them now and really, really doing the best they can to track them down. So they do not have that field day they used to have some months back, meaning that efforts are being made to take them off social media so as for them not to make it pronounced. So I think we really need to get that clear as we move on this conversation. Who is the next person? Question or contribution?
Question.
Please, your name. Let's hear you.
So my name is Leila Olashukwu, and I have a question for Ayomide.
Okay.
You said that the government are putting in place measures to curb insecurity. You mentioned the Air Force, where we have members of the Air Force flying to make sure that there's security, and bandits are now afraid of coming out. They are now hiding. The attack that happened at Oyo State, this attack happened broad daylight. So what exactly were these security forces that are meant to ensure that there is security in the country? What exactly were they doing? The policies and these measures that the governments are putting in place, how effective are these measures?
Okay. Just quick
Okay,
answer.
so these are measures that are still in progress.
Okay.
These are measures that we are seeing that is reflecting in the behavioral changes of the terrorists. It doesn't mean there's going to be a clean sweep across the board. That's just one issue.
Okay.
We can't tell of the other unreported issues where something like that, or the fact that we have aerial view or aerial access to, the security infrastructure of the country, hasn't deterred, terrorists, hasn't put people in hiding. Those are not reported. But the fact that this one is reported doesn't necessarily mean that there is not,
okay,
an impact.
All right, thank you. It's okay. All right. Let me have her first, then I'll get to you. Yeah, she's been itching to ask a particular question. Let's get you. Are you directing the question to them, both of them?
Both of them.
Okay, speak up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lawa Amira Chisum. My question is, according to you, you said the governments are putting policies in place and everything. Don't you think that there are some certain people in governments that are involved in this? Because you, according to her, she also said that these people are coming back more bold. They are coming back with more infrastructures. They are coming back with more
strategy.
Exactly. Don't you think there are certain people in government
that are emboldening them?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
She just made a very valid point now.
So it is possible, but those are unfounded claims. We can't say for sure that anybody in the government is, responsible. We can bounce back and forth between what someone has said.
But you cannot dispute moles.
Yeah.
There are moles everywhere.
There are moles everywhere. But I think one notable case where we can see a very significant leap in the intelligence, infrastructure in Nigeria. That means being able to, gather information regardless of moles. There's an aspect of security that is involved in information, the way information is passed across. For example, in the joint intelligence collaboration with the US that led to the killing of Abu Bilal al-Minuki, there was a significant, progress in the way Nigerians process the information. While we understand that there might be moles, there might be people that know about it in the government, but through this recent, advancement, we can see that there has been an improvement.
Okay,
so if they do that again, we can expect that even though there are moles, they will either be cleared out or information will not be able to get to them at all.
Thank you. Let's have you.
Thank you. My name is Wale Fakwi. I think we need to give credence to our armed forces. They've shown some bravery and they show some resilience. And I think what we need to do is to probably change our framework. You cannot police 220 million with 350 police. It will not happen. So I think we need to encourage more people in interagency collaboration. Then we need to also recruit. Even 1,000 forest guard cannot do that and also share intelligence because the fear, the insecurity is palpable. People can feel it everywhere. So, but I need to also state and reiterate that for one attack that happened, about 100 attacks possibly have been averted. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I might be very moved to take one more question or contribution. Who is that person? Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Agedo Goodness.
All right.
And as much as I would like to concur with both of them, like just for the sake of the argument, it still boils down to each and every one of us taking responsibility in securing our own lives.
Right.
Like, this case has happened, your case, and then we see where individuals, citizens of this country, are taking advantage, like a woman and a supposed boyfriend is taking advantage of kidnapping.
Yeah.
And she's billing or asking her family for money.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't make any sense, where he has to boil down to the fact that whatever situation that we find ourselves, Nigerians always have to take advantage of every situation. Because if we take responsibility by ourselves to do the little we can,
right,
to help each other, not because these people in government, they are human beings like us. We don't necessarily have to wait for them. We have to start from the root, from the community leaders, from wherever we can.
Right.
I think if we ourselves are willing and we are ready to put aside the greed, to put aside the corruption that we have in our heart, we would be able to move the country forward.
All right, thank you. Put your hands together for her. Thank you so much. All right. Strong opinions, powerful experiences, and concerns shared by millions across the country. When we return, final words from our guests. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Thank you very kindly. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. It's been quite interesting talking about security in Nigeria, and of course these individuals here have been very, very extreme with their points and of course opening up the layers and talking to us about it. But this is the moment where we actually draw the curtains, but they have to do the closing individually. You started first, right? Fantastic. Who closes first? Who takes the bull by the horn first? Okay.
Right, let me take it.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, this was a very interesting conversation, but just to close things up, I think the situations that we're having, or the statistics that we're having, they're not just statistics. These are actual people, these are actual lives that have been impacted. And it's clear that Nigeria has not achieved the security that those families or those people deserve. Those people deserve. But it's clear that we are moving forward. The capacity is growing, the architecture is building, and perhaps there just needs to be more reporting, more communication in terms of the things that are being done, not necessarily in progress, but after they've been effected, so that we can see that things are actually getting safer. And for us to also introspect and see that in our day-to-day lives, in the lives of people that are immediate, close to us, around us, we can, contribute to the security efforts there as well. I hope that things really do get better and we start to see the effects of the things that are being,
Thank you very much. Sharivat, how do you close?
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Firstly, I would say my stance today is not to deny efforts. Nigeria is actually doing a great job. There have been policies being put in place. There have been victories of cases and all of that. But the real question is what average Nigeria believe and live in their everyday life. Because an average mother does not actually judge security by official statements. They actually judge it if their children are actually home. Even a farmer does not judge it by report. He actually believes if his farm is safe enough for him to go out and work. Even average students, they don't judge it by what we get to say, but what they actually live. Because if our everyday life is being lived based on fear, then definitely we still have a long way today to actually go. So I'm trying to say today that there are measures being put in place, there are efforts, but if this effort does not translate into security for average Nigerians, there is a long way to go.
Thank you. Thank you. Please put your hands together for them once again. Thank you so much. All right. I know the both of you have had your moment here. Yes, it's understandable to actually have to go head-to-head with each other, even though you might have known each other before. But as with the fashion of the show, you guys will have to, come here and maybe shake hands or display gestures before we finally end it.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, walk down here. Yeah. I know. Put your hands together for them. All right, thank you very much. There you have it, Nigeria, a nation determined to secure its future, yet divided on how much progress has truly been made. Is Nigeria winning the war against insecurity, or are the challenges growing faster than the solutions? Can military victories alone bring lasting peace? What role should communities, technology, intelligence, and governance play? And perhaps the biggest question of all, when will every Nigerian feel genuinely safe? Join the conversation online at The Big Issue on TVC. Watch us live on YouTube at TVC Entertainment. Special thanks to our guests. Come on, put your hands together for them. Sherifat Umar and Ayomide. Come on, put your hands together for them once again. And of course, to our vibrant studio audience, thank you for being part of this important national conversation. To our hard-working technical crew, you deserve an applause. Special appreciation to the engine behind the show, our program producer, Francis Azubike. Thank you very much. Until next time, Nigeria, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop demanding solutions to the issues that shape our future. My name is Mark Otabo, and this has been The Big Issue.